All right, well, welcome to the B. Dawson podcast.
It's called the B. Dawson Show. You have B. Dawson here, also known as Brandon Dawson, and you have Natalie Workman as his guest.
I have a special guest today.
He's calling in the big guns.
I'm trying to increase the quality of the B. Dawson podcast show.
The B. Dawson podcast show. The Be Awesome B. Dawson podcast show thing.
So the reason I asked Natalie to join us is we just got back from 10X Growth Con, production by Grant Cardone and his team, Grant and Elena Cardone. And it was quite an experience. And so I thought maybe we would talk a little bit about that.
Yes, let's do it. I have all of my notes sitting in front of me. Not all of them, actually. There's a whole nother booklet. But you have all of your notes sitting in front of you. And I can't even, what's crazy is I could spend days going over what content was shared and what content is in these notes. Like just doing a 30-minute podcast seems
first
such a
and
short
foremost,
amount of time.
How did I find Grant and why did we go to the show? I think it's important to understand that, when you feel, John Maxwell talks about law of the lid, and I talk about 3 lids. You have your belief lid, your operational effectiveness lid, and your leadership lid. And I was at a place where for this year, 2018, one of my goals was to start putting myself in a position where I could increase all 3 of those lids, which then put me on a mission to go out and find people, new mentors. Not that my old mentors, they're still so significant in my life, but if I want to think different, I need to have different experiences and I need to have different inputs, right?
Yes.
And so one of my missions was to find some of those people. And we spent the better part of the first half of last year going through lots of different successful personalities out there, reading tons of books, and really honing in on people that we believe are right now in the flow of making a difference, of impacting other people's lives, and have not only a personal twist, but a business twist so that we could increase our capacity to learn both personally and professionally, but also had a financial, because I want to put all the lenses, personal, professional, and financial goals. So we strive to find somebody that could represent to both of us success in those 3 categories.
Absolutely. And we found them, but it took a lot of work to get there.
And teamwork, because we found Grant through
Teamwork makes the dream work, ladies and gentlemen.
We found them because you actually found Elena Cardone and started reading her book.
Yes. No, I hadn't read her book yet, but she's like such a badass. And so I started following her on social. And then I started following him on social, and they're just doing such cool things. And people who are doing cool things, when they do cool things, they magnetize to people who want to do cool things or who are already doing cool things. And that's how we decided to, come together with them.
And then we were driving in the car, and you said you got to listen to Grant's book, the 10X.
Yes, the 10X rule.
And so we put the 10X rule on, and we were driving, and at first I'm like, oh, I want to listen to some music, and it was a 2.5-hour car ride.
He was not having it. Let's just be honest here for a second. I kind of had to push him to listen to this audiobook because he just wasn't excited to spend 2.5 hours listening to some guy talk about how to 10X your life. It kind of sounds a little meatheady before you actually listen to it, like 10X.
Yeah, and I'm like, I wanted to listen to some music. My daughter was in the car, my 13-year-old. You and I were in the car. We got 2.5 hours.
I was like, no, you don't just need to think and listen to music. We need new thoughts. So how do you get new thoughts?
So she puts the book on, and I mean, within probably 10 minutes of listening to the book, I am laughing. I'm pounding on the steering wheel going, that's exactly how I think. This is exactly the kind of how I feel about things. And my daughter noticed I was pounding on the steering wheel and laughing, and I was doing fist bumps in the air like, yeah, man, that is exactly correct.
I think we should really try to focus on what we learned at 10X Growth Con, because if people want to hear how we found out about Grant and Elena, they can go to my podcast and listen to how we got, or how to get out of a rut, because we kind of go through that whole process.
Yep,
and then
that's true. And that'll be on, he's 25 years older.
On the Age Gap Realness podcast with Natalie Workman and Brandon Dawson.
Awesome. The point is, sometimes you need your partner to put things in play so that you can, the value here is by both of us searching for these resources. You found somebody, brought it to me. I trusted you. I didn't want to listen to it at the time, but I did, and I fell in love with it. And since then, I've read the book 3 or 4 times. I've listened to the podcast podcast 3 or 4 times.
Can I get a high five?
And I've listened to the audiobook, and I started following Grant, correct?
Did you just ignore my request for a high
You
five?
interrupted me. So since this is my podcast,
He
I'm
thinks
in
he has
charge.
all of the rules. He does not get to make all of the rules.
All right, so let's talk about 10X Growth Con. Look, we have a mindset of being process-oriented and delivering value in everything we do.
Yes.
And we have struggled finding somebody that we believed exemplified that quality.
That is true.
Okay, this is a main point. Like having a bigger picture than just doing random stuff, but really being clear and then bringing value.
Amen.
Okay, now talk about what your biggest takeaway was.
Okay, so Jesse was my favorite speaker at GrowthCon. Jesse Itzler. I think that's how you say his name. He is... It's funny, I define him as Sarah Blakely's husband because Sarah is so well known in her own right with Spanx, but he has created just as much, if not more, success than she has with having founded or co-founded Marquis Jets and then selling coconut water through Zyco. And his story was just amazing. First of all, he used to be a rapper, and so he has that like cool rap thing going for him in his delivery. But one of the key takeaways that I had from him and a little bit of Grant later on was the idea that applying pressure in any situation is a privilege. Pressure is a privilege because if you do not have pressure, if you do not have financial pressure, if you do not have emotional pressure, if you have no oomph to try to get something done, things don't ever end up happening. So how are you figuring out how to apply pressure in your life? And Grant's little piece on top of pressure as a privilege was Grant saying, look, when your plate is full, when you feel like everything is maxed out, add something else, create something new, put a new program on there. You can always do more.
Well, that means the higher priority things will take your focus, and the things that the mundane things that you think you have to do, but really don't add a lot of value. He's saying keep applying pressure, put more on there. And then they basically both said, who was it that said that when you think you're at capacity, you're really
that
only...
was Jesse.
Jesse, you're only 40% at capacity.
Right. So like figure out ways in your life to practically apply pressure, to get more done, to live the life you want to live, to create the things or the programs or the skill sets that you're excited about but you don't put any energy into. Like life is short. Apply pressure to things that you need to get done and that you want to get done.
I want to talk more macro sense for a minute. First of all, the stage setting, and they were in a stadium with 35,000 people, and that took that takes some serious vision because the previous meeting, I think they only had like 9 or 10,000 people. So Grant made the decision, Grant Cardone and Elena, that they were going to fill this stadium, and they were on a mission to do that. And it was sink or swim because if nobody showed up,
well, and I actually
not to mention he parachutes into the stadium.
Oh my
Who
gosh.
parachutes into the stadium in their own show? What if he would have broke a leg or something?
Or died.
What? How crazy is that? But that goes to show they were all in. And I think you can feel when somebody's all in on something. And I think these are the lessons. If somebody's listening to this podcast and they take a pen out right now, write some things down, because I'm going to make a point on several of these things. And the first point
Write her
is
down.
Pick big goals and be all in.
And put your money. This was interesting. He was like talking up on stage, Grant was. And when he was talking about his goals, he said, put your money where your goals are, because you will follow where your money is. Your mind will always be thinking, where's my money going? And if you know that you have a $10 million commitment to an event to fill 3,500 people or fill 3,500 seats with people.
35,000
I'm sorry,
seats.
35,000 seats. Your mind is going to go to where your money is. It's the same thing, which is what I loved with him talking about working out. If you know that you are paying a personal trainer $100 every single morning to show up at your house so that you exercise and you're working out, your mind is going to go to doing that thing. So it's not complaining about, oh, I pay $100 for a gym membership. No, it's what money should I be putting places so that it's enough of a motivator to pull me towards doing those things, to apply the pressure that I need to associate with getting that goal done with money that I need to spend in order to get there.
Exactly. So you will follow and pay attention to where your money is.
Yes, your money prioritizes what you do, and we don't think about it that way because we always, like, I think all of us are cheap asses in some context. Like, we just don't want to pay full price, or we want to get a deal.
Well, I'm going to convert this to context with business.
Okay.
People will spend marketing dollars with third parties, and then they'll be victimized if they don't work. Think about that. They'll give somebody else a third-party money, and
Yeah.
then they'll sit back and be victimized if and when that doesn't work. What does that say? It's your responsibility. If you're going to put money into something, you make sure it works. Because with marketing, what you do when the minute the phone rings, how you greet people when they walk in the door, how you present yourself in the community, what you say when you walk outside your four doors will amplify your existing spend. And people don't think that way. So what he's saying is, look, if you're going to spend $1 on something, put your energy into where you're spending your money. So if you're going to spend money in marketing, make sure every single person in your environment is cued into where that dollar is going, what the expected return on that dollar is, and what they need to do to reinforce that dollar, and that it's everyone's responsibility to make that dollar work. And so these principles that he was talking about are consistent with how we believe, but I think people forget. And it's easy to, when you got a lot of things going on in business, to just be dependent on other people, not hold them accountable, and allow things to happen without being focused on what the actual intentional result and purpose of those items or those things are.
So true. So true.
So here's the thing. So first of all, the first point is think big. Think bigger than anything that you've thought about before. So you have a bigger goal and a bigger objective. Second, be willing to put your money behind it and make sure every single person on your team understands there's full transparency where that money's going, what the intention is, and that you're pushing towards an event or a situation or a result that everyone has clarity. The other thing is don't be victimized by your own circumstances when you're in charge. And he talked about compliance. Make sure your team understands how they fit in, what their responsibilities are, what their obligations are, and how you expect them to perform at the highest level of impact. And there is no excuses, and people can't deviate from that mission.
Well, the way that I loved how he said it is he says, I'm going to be Grant wrong. It is my responsibility to say or to listen to somebody. And if they give me an idea that they think is great, but I think is bad, I'm going to say this is not a good idea. And even if they try to, persuade me that it is a good idea, he just says, I'm going to be Grant wrong. If it's wrong, it's wrong. But it's starting and ending with me. I'm not going to put this on you. This is my company. It's my organization. The buck stops with me. Let me be Grant wrong. But no, we're not doing this. We're not pushing this forward. I loved that. So I wrote down in my notes,
by your other people.
Be Natalie wrong.
And the deal is you surround yourself, you become, and this is really what we identify. We know this rule, but elevating your game and who you're surrounding yourself with. He brought in the top speakers. I've never seen more keynote speakers at any event. It was 3 days long. It was very intentional. And the point here, and we can talk about some of the different contributions each speaker made, but what I want to say is that there was a thoughtful presentation by each speaker that led to the next speaker and the next speaker that compounded. And the value that they were bringing to all these, mostly I think who were there were small business owners, right? And individuals that wanted to increase their performance. And there were some, I met some larger business owners there too, but man, my goal would be going forward is to bring as many people to this as possible, because every single speaker just blew away the limits you have in your own thinking based on the things that they've been able to attain, and gave their secret sauce, the key thinkings, the key principles behind how they made this transformation in their lives. But at the end of every speech, at the end of every talk, they had a package. Grant, this is interesting. We got a little inside knowledge of how this worked because John Maxwell was there. Mm-hmm. And John is a dear, dear friend and has done such an amazing, has created such an amazing impact throughout the world with all the things that he's just drive him with leadership and love. I mean, it's just an incredible guy. But he said to me, we went to dinner before the show, and he says, Grant has said each speaker needs to offer something at the end of their talk and charge a reasonable price for it. Can't be outrageous, but it has to be something that somebody there can then do to elevate and evolve their abilities so that they can impact their life, or they won't come next year. So he literally told every single speaker, you're going to sell from the stage, you're going to offer something at a reasonable price, and it's going to be impactful that people can do so that they will say, next year I'm coming so I can build on that. So each speaker was forced to create this little program at the end of each talk, and every one of them offered something that when you put them all together were transformational. And some of these packages, if we had to send an employee to go get trained on what they were offering, it would have been $10,000, $12,000, $15,000. But because they're offering them to individuals, which hint, if you own a business, and you have a marketing department, you have an operations department, a finance team, you have a business development team, a sales team, this meeting is for you, because I would hold off hiring third-party businesses and looking at training people, and I would bring them to GrowthCon, and at the end of each talk, you can buy those packages for what we were paying as an organization $10,000 or $12,000 for. You can buy them for $1,000 or $2,000 per person. And so if I'm building, like in our case, we have 60 marketing people, and that we're doing the marketing for all our customers and members. I would prefer to take 10 of those marketing people there, take 2 people that are experts in each one of the categories they talked about. They had Ty Lopez there talking about the best websites and how to structure them. They had
pretty cool.
Who was the ClickFunnels guy, or the
Russell Brunson with ClickFunnels.
One of the most successful companies in driving sales through the internet.
Well, what was so unique about the conference and the way that the speakers all engaged was, instead of just talking about money, first of all, most conferences, people always skirt around talking about money. Like it's the elephant in the room. Everyone's there in order to figure out how to make more money, how to create a greater impact, but it's never directly talked about. And so in this conference, Grant opens it, and everyone who came after him, who is very financially successful and well off, they're all sitting there talking about the value that money brings to our lives to be able to create whatever life we want, whether that's a life of giving, well, hopefully it's a life of giving, but so that you can be able to give to your family, to your friends, to your communities, to yourself, to your
charities,
spouse. Yes, to the holistic picture of why money is important. So they started there and then said, look, guys, this is how you can make money. This is how you can do this. This isn't taboo. This isn't something that you need to feel sleazy or salesy about. When you're selling people things, create products that are from your heart. Be passionate and committed to what you're doing, and don't do things that you don't believe in, and don't sell things that you don't believe in. But when you do find that thing and you have those things, this is how you sell it. This is how you make money so that you can contribute and you can give back to your team members and your employees and everybody that you care about, and live a life that is filled with abundance instead of scarcity. And it just making it so simple to give people the steps as to how to make money because it's a good thing was transformational from my standpoint.
So here's the takeaway. If you own a business, or you want to own a business,
yes,
you don't have to sit in the front row of 10X GrowthCon. You can sit in the very back row. That's $49 to get in that building. If you want to sit in the front row, like I did, you can spend $20,000 or $30,000 to be in that building. At the end of each talk, you can spend $200 to take a piece of something and fit it into your life, or you can take $2,000 of a piece of something, because they scaled it to be relative to what your needs are right now in order to boost you to the next level of growth.
But if you choose not to, it's you making the decision not to play the game.
If you choose not to spend $49,
because you are learning the same thing, paying $15,000 as the person who's paying $50,000 or $50.
$50.
Yes.
And what I'm saying is, if you're listening to this, and I don't have any reason to tell you this other than my own personal experience, the hundreds of conventions I've gone to and meetings and stuff, and the dozens I've done myself, and the fact that we've trained thousands and thousands of people over the last 10 years and seen them just crush it. Don't just bring yourself. Bring somebody important with you. Here's my rule. If you have 100 people working for you, identify the top 10%, which would be 10 people. Take those 10 people and pick one of your highest performers in each category of the things that you specialize in. Or if you only do one thing and you have 10 of 100, pick your best 10. Put a plan in place and tell them if they attain those higher level of goals, and they work as a team to identify how they're doing it. So the whole point here is leveraging a team. They work as a team to identify exactly how they're taking these new thoughts, these new learnings, applying them into the business with a stated goal of achieving, if whatever your growth has been, triple it. That's your new goal. So if you grow at 10% or 20% a year, or you're flat, pick a watermark, 50% growth, and tell that top 10%, this think tank, this group inside of my organization is going to strive by doing things and working together as teams to identify how we can move bigger, better, faster, and tell those team members, if you hit some percent of those goals, you'll buy $49 seats. If you hit 50% of those goals, you'll be buying them $1,000 seats and moving them closer. And if you guys blow the goals away, which means you have to be smart at business, right? You got to know if those tickets towards the front cost me $1,000 or $15,000, pick your economic modeling for your business and model it around this so you know what your threshold is that you can afford it. Set a goal. Go spend the $20 or $30 and watch it, because I just saw they did a release on Grant Cardone. If you go on Instagram, whatever, you'll find him. But you can go and watch. That's even a better idea.
You can watch all the presentations.
Go watch all the presentations and apply it now.
$80 to buy all of the presentations.
That's right. Go back and watch it now, and then tell your team, your high performers, if we hit this objective, I'm taking you to this meeting, and I promise you, you're going to perform better in 2019, and you're going to learn something new in 2020 that will propel your business to a higher level of success. That's just a promise. I've seen it all. I've met so many people. This is the real deal.
Awesome. Well, with that, thank you for having me on your show.
Thank you for being on my show. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
You make everything easier for me.
Aw, so sweet.
Until the next show. And on the next show, specifically, we're going to be talking about how to find mentors. So that'll be on the next show, the next Brandon Dawson podcast.
The B. Dawson Show.
The B. Dawson Show.
Thanks,
Be
awesome, guys.